On today's episode of Wrong Side, we welcome in Sam Blum from The Athletic, talk about the Western and Eastern Conference previews, look at the NFL schedule a little bit, talk about our upcoming vacations, and along with that, Clutch Moment of the Week brought to you by Shore Metals and Outside the Line. Here we go. Welcome back, listeners. Episode 11, and the Timberwolves are headed to the Western Conference Finals. A great week of sports, of life, both of us getting ready to go out on vacation. A great interview last week with Matt Brown, fellow Ohio State alum. We're going to talk a little bit more about the NCAA release later on in this episode, but go check out episode 10 and that interview with him for a little more NCAA news and some Buckeye love as always. But been a big week. Mike, what's up? Yeah, a lot of sports this week happened. We got Western and Eastern Conference Finals all set. That'll start up on Tuesday. Going to be great there. Hockey kind of get in the midst of it too, going to the next round. Rangers advancing, Bruins out. Canucks Oilers Game 7 is Monday, so that's going to be a good one. Golf was fantastic this weekend, and golf was in the headlines pretty heavy this week. Outside of, congratulations to Xander Schauffele. He did win today, coast-to-coast champion, so congratulations to him. But what a week. We had Rory divorce. We had Scotty arrested Friday morning. What a weekend for golf. Joey, what do you think about the whole Scotty situation?
Well, first off, is it tone deaf that I want Rory to win more now that he's getting a divorce? Like, I was never passionately in or out on Rory.
That's fair.
Now divorced Rory, I'm super in on him for no reason.
Do you think if he wins though, if he wins more, that's more money she gets?
I'm not sure how that all works. So
I think let's see how he plays. I think it's definitely going to be interesting, but Rory's stuck still. I still think his game is definitely not done anything. He has those top 5 finishes, but he collapsed him. But yeah, Friday was pretty nuts with Scotty. That was definitely a story I felt like.
Did you see they lost the footage? They lost the body cam footage, or it didn't work.
Of course it didn't. But there was Jeff Darlington I saw on Twitter, which was a reporter. He saw it happening. He was either in the car behind him or the car next to him, and he got out of his car and was recording the whole situation. It was Scotty was yelling him, "Yo, can you help me? Can you please help me?" And I thought that was insane, but kind of felt like it happened Friday. It was big. He was 5 under after that happened. Yeah. Stretched in a jail cell. 5 under, shoots 5 under, and then the story kind of passed. Maybe we'll talk about it more this week, but maybe we were just so consumed by so many other sports that we got shuffled.
There was a lot going on, but then he kind of faded through the rest of the weekend. Great round 2, and then it was just
it all kind of just fizzled. He faded, but I'm fairly certain he finished pretty decently high. Let me see if I can find his total. But Schauffele won at 21 under. He stumbled the rest of the weekend and finished 13 under, tied for 8th. Still had a fantastic weekend.
I heard the PGA is never going back there again. Everybody absolutely ate up on that course. It was total scores through the weekend. The field in total was minus 214 on this course.
Well,
and the next closest one was plus 58.
That's what I was asking.
It seemed like a bad experience
to you
for
and the rest of the guys.
Weekend.
I was are courses usually this easy? I thought I just thought 21 under, and it wasn't a random tournament. It wasn't something small. It was the PGA Championship in Kentucky, and I was so shocked. Everybody, 2 guys 20 under to the last day, so definitely would not be shocked if they don't go back there. But congratulations to Xander again. You're off and winning, and kind of nice to see that it wasn't Scotty for once, personally, and not a live guy. Yeah, also nice for no Bryson.
That's true.
So shout out Xander for finally coast-to-coast win. But outside of golf, NBA, wild weekend of ball. Wild weekend. Last week, what a 3 weeks we've had just on this podcast alone. It's the T-Wolves takeover, T-Wolves dead, T-Wolves advance. Same thing with the Pacers Knicks.
Yep.
Same vibe. Pacers advance, Minnesota advances. We got Dallas, Minnesota, Pacers, Celtics. First thoughts. Sunday night, what are you thinking?
Ugly. ugly matchups in terms of who Adam Silver wants to see in the finals,
Adam Silver
especially
not
the
happy.
Eastern Conference. Yeah, not happy. I am, and we talked about this earlier on. The West is so much more interesting than the East. It's disappointing to see how the East went. Is my first thoughts looking at this matchup, but I'm really excited for this Western Conference series. And fun fact about the West: over the last couple of weeks for the NBA playoffs, we've been talking about the young stars taking over. Is it going to be Shea? Is it going to be Anthony Edwards? Luka is younger than Shea. Luka is definitely one of these young stars. He's 25. 25 just about. I think Anthony Edwards is like 22,
Yeah.
but the young stars are taking over in the West, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, I thought that we were going to potentially get a Luka versus Jokic matchup, and that was kind of going to be battle of who's the best white player in the NBA. But I was not sure what happened, and Ant was miserable in Game 7. Miserable. But showed up when it mattered in the third and fourth. Cat showed up. Huge putback. Gobert. I think he's afraid to dribble and afraid to go to the hoop. I don't know what
He was
happens
so
there.
effective this game.
I mean,
was
he
so
had that
effective
fadeaway
today.
jumper in the fourth to basically, it felt like that was the dagger. That honestly
was
felt
insane,
like
yeah.
one of those Jokic shots. You know, Jokic usually does that one where you're playing defense for 23.9 seconds and then he just like over the head hucks one in. Very similar feeling, I felt like. So Minnesota moving on. I think that's going to be a very, very underrated series. Lively is a great big. I think he's a good big.
Yeah.
Kyrie and Luka is very different than the way they play. Yeah, they might be definitely outmatched on the boards, but they're going to shoot the ball very, very well. And I'm really excited. I think outside of ratings, I will say it feels like this is the first time in a while. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just like speaking of recency bias, but we might have like actual ball being played. Like not a ton of storylines, really. We have four teams that, Minnesota, this is their first conference finals appearance in 20 years. Dallas, Dallas made it a couple years ago and lost to the conference finals. The Pacers, first time for them since 2014, and Celtics, first time. Not a lot of rings, other than maybe some veterans on some of these teams, but not a lot of rings. A lot of storylines left to go, which will be exciting. I don't think it's the best ratings, but actual ball, it's going to be very impressive.
A lot of defense, especially in the West. The Timberwolves were the best defensive team in the regular season. The Mavs ended the regular season right up there as well. I think, especially in the West, there's a lot of personalities, especially all those bigs. Like there's a lot of egos. There's going to be some like chest to chest going on. I think in this series, like some real good battles. And then the East, like the East is honestly the more offensive focused conference. Like before we had like the Warriors who were like shooting all those threes, the Rockets, teams like that. So like the West was more that style and the East was kind of a little bit more ground and pound, if you will.
Right.
But now it's a little bit of a switch has happened. Then the Pacers win Game 7 off of what was it? The best shooting quarter in NBA playoff history.
It was the best shooting percentage in a playoff game ever.
Yeah, that's everyone was saying like, yeah, like maybe
39
like
points in the first quarter, most in a Game 7 ever.
Kane was saying, Kane Acosta, Ashes to Amber, episode 7 or 8, I think. He was saying the Pacers are going to do it. And we're like, yeah, maybe if they make their shots, like it's not really like a good brand of ball, but hey, when they fucking hit their shots,
it's awesome.
There's nobody can hang with them. They're insane.
One of the craziest stats I saw today, I saw two crazy stats, but one that I saw earlier into Sunday and one that I saw later, and I was like, wow, I can't believe I saw this twice, was during the Knicks-Pacers game, it was a Pacers lead by 15 at the half. The biggest comeback in a Game 7 let down at halftime was 11. The Pacers held them. Knicks did not come back. Same thing again. Game 7 at night. T-Wolves down 15. Biggest comeback 11. They mentioned this stat again, and the T-Wolves break through and now have the biggest comeback in Game 7 history. So that was crazy. Second stat I heard was what they said on the broadcast. 6 straight years, the defending champs have not gotten past the second round.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy. With some of like the really
pretty
good
insane
teams
we've had. Like we've had in that 6 years. Does that put us still in Warrior territory or out of KD?
Just about.
Like
just out of that probably.
So I mean that's insane. That's an insane stat. And credit to the T-Wolves. I will say on the other side, looking at the Celtics, Cavs, the Cavs kind of went out not really under their own decision. It was injuries. They got banged up. The Celtics made their shots. Kind of a Celtics way to get to the final or to the next round. Pacers, Knicks as well, banged up. Long series. Brunson hand broken. I was kind of bummed because I was kind of hoping that Kawhi would bail out of the Olympics and Brunson could get his spot potentially.
Yeah.
But injury again, I don't
Now
foresee that happening. So now who knows what happens there. But felt for Knicks fans, they're right around there with the Sixers. Haven't made a conference final since 2000, 2001. Pacers now move on. And I mean, they ended no OG, no Brunson. No Mitchell Robinson, no Julius Randle, no Bogdanovich. I mean, the list went on and felt for them there, but that's basketball. You got to keep playing. And the Pacers didn't give up. Halliburton was effective. Miles Turner played well today, I thought, as well. Siakam, another fantastic game. So very interesting. Dallas on the other side. Shea, foul baiter, gets the foul called on him. Dallas makes the free throws. Dallas wins the game. I think Luka versus Ant are going to be incredible shit-talking games. Incredible. They are going to be jawing at each other.
I think if you look at the last couple games for the Mavs, like Luka was pissed off. His body language is horrible.
Every game
he's complaining to the refs the whole time. But no. But then I think it was game 7 rolls around. He's smiling. He's moving. He's bouncing around a little bit, like laughing with his teammates a little bit more. And you saw that immediately reflected in better play. He could not shoot the step back 3 for the entirety of the playoffs, it seemed like. And then suddenly he was really heating up in game 7, was more involved in the offense, was moving stuff around. So he's like, yeah, like it's just basketball. Like basketball is supposed to be fun. Meanwhile, on the other side, Anthony Edwards threw, I thought, just about 3 quarters until he started cooking a little bit there in the 4th. He had pretty shitty body language today. So again, these are 2 young guys. Luka has a little more playoff experience than Anthony Edwards, but Anthony Edwards still has a lot of poise in his own right. I'm curious to see how kind of, like you said, that shit-talking chess match, like whose skin does it get under? And does it elevate their player? Do they try and do too much, and does it diminish their play? So I think there's a ton of personalities.
I think it's going to be a ton of personalities, and I think it's going to be a very big series. Like we said for the past month, changing the guard is here. Look at it. We have Ant versus Luka, Tatum and Brown versus Halliburton and Siakam, young guys. And it's great to see. It is great to see as much. First of all, I was stoked Denver's out. See you later. Mike Malone had to do his press conference while Minnesota's celebrating in the next room over. I love that. So see you, Denver. I don't know where Denver goes from here. I don't know where they're at cap-wise, but I think they're going to be fine. They'll rebuild. They might lose like the KCP, like role player guys. I know those guys are always kind of interchangeable. On the other hand, Cavs, everybody's interested in Donovan Mitchell, but I think Donovan Mitchell is here to stay, retweeting the Jose Ramirez stuff, posting on his story on Instagram. I think he's here to stay. I think it's Garland potentially is the guy looking on the outside, looking in. We'll see who gets him.
You're not getting a lot for Garland, though.
I agree, but I think he's the one they're trading and not Mitchell. I think I think the Mitchell trades as well. I know you have to extend him, but you're extending him and you only have 1 year left in that contract. I mean, the offers I'm seeing, he's phenomenal, but the offers I'm seeing are
he's great, yeah.
3-4 first round picks plus players. And I'm like, oh my God, I'd be so mad. So very interesting to see, but we'll see. We're going to have game 1 on Tuesday, for games. It's going to be awesome. I think these, like I said, great ball. Ratings, everybody always complains the ratings are going to suck. No LeBron, no Steph, no KD. But somehow people keep watching. So if people keep watching, that means the ball is going to be good. So maybe it won't be great for LeBron-itis and all the other LeBron accounts I follow, or Lake Show Yo, those accounts. But for like people who enjoy watching basketball, it's going to be really good, I think. It'll be very interesting.
So the Eastern Conference matchup, Tyrese Halliburton. I want to talk about the Eastern Conference matchup a little bit because it is weird on paper. It's like the Pacers versus the Celtics. The Celtics have kind of had their way with everybody this year, and the Pacers are like the 6th seed.
Yeah.
Can Halliburton lead this team? There are games where he goes 4 for 6 and is pretty non-impactful to these games. So he's turned it on a little bit more, started taking more shots, and really seems to be rising to the occasion as the playoffs move on. But now you're facing the big bad Boston Celtics. Do you think he has what it takes to lead this team?
I don't know if he has what it takes to lead the team. I think Siakam is definitely also playing very well. Halliburton needs to shoot the ball though. Those games where he has 4 or 5 shots and he has like 9 points, and you're like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
it's almost as confusing as like the Miles Turner like shooting 10 threes to me. Like, I understand he has high volume and he makes them, but like that's not your role. Get a rebound, do that kind of stuff. But Tyrese Halliburton, when he had like 6 shots a game, they were like kind of struggling. And then like all of a sudden, you're like, wow, the Pacers are dominating when he's taking these shots. How is that possible? And it's like, oh, good player shoots ball, makes it in hoop. Good. Like, oh, we win. Like, shocking. So I don't know. I think he has a chance to maybe grab a game or
going to the finals.
Yeah, it sucks. And regardless, I don't care who wins other than the Celtics not winning. Like, I hope somehow, some way, like the defense in the West, I think will prove to be really good for matching up against the Celtics. Like, both these teams have good guards who play defense, who can switch. Like we've talked about, the Celtics are another great team if they make their threes, but if there are guards that can run with their guys and can match up pretty well, I think they're gonna have their work cut out from it to play either of these guys in the West.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be great, and I think it's going to be I think we're going to see 2 good series. I'm calling Minnesota in 6, Celtics in 5. How about you?
I was thinking T-Wolves in 7. I think this is another real back and forth. There's going to be a lot of overreaction in the West, similar to how there was in this series with Timberwolves going up 2, Denver dominating to tie up the series to 2 games apiece, and then kind of some back and forth. And even the beginning of Game 7, people said, oh, the Timberwolves. I thought the Timberwolves looked lost in the first half.
No way, Timberwolves lose was a text you sent.
Yeah, no, I said no.
I mean,
no way,
Denver
Nuggets.
No way, Nuggets lose.
Yeah, I was like, damn, like this sucks. Like I was looking for something else to put on, and then they got it close. So I think Timberwolves may still go to 7. I think there's going to be a lot of overreactions that happen in that series. In the East, I think I'll say Tyrese Halliburton gets him 2 games. I'm going to go with Boston in 6. They may sweat him out a little bit. Boston has struggled in this position. They almost got swept by the Heat last year or 2 years ago. But I hope Boston struggles. I hope Boston fans sweat a little bit this series.
So definitely gonna be interesting. NBA all set there. NFL, quick NFL update. Schedule's out. Fans can now start planning trips. Can figure out weekends. What is your thoughts? First thoughts, quick. We're still early. We know it's May. We won't dive too deep into NFL, but what are your first thoughts? Bears schedule, whole season.
Bears schedule release. It was 80s movie themed.
Okay.
1985 was a year in the 80s. The Bears happened to win the Super Bowl. The Bears happened to win a Super Bowl that year. I think we're going to win the Super Bowl this year, and so does Nick Wright.
I did say Nick Wright did say he's flirting with the idea of taking them to the Super Bowl. He's potentially going to buy them a drink. He's really thinking about it. But
all of the Bears divisional games are in the last like 7 weeks of the season. Like they don't have a divisional game till week 10 or week 12 or something like that. So it's you can already see the puppet masters at work to try and put a big market like Chicago in a position to succeed. So we start off with the Titans in week 1, the Jaguars are in like week 3. Like we were the last place team in the division last year. So yeah, we have a crappy schedule.
Last place schedule,
and Yep. So, but we also like improved more than most of these other teams, obviously, which we've gone through before. But we're set up to have a really good year. We don't play a super strong schedule. We play all of our divisional teams in the late half of the year. So hoping that an offense with a lot of new faces can kind of get their feet under them over those first couple weeks. But we play in a tough ass division. So I didn't really look at all the schedules. I thought it was interesting that the Bears divisions were loaded into the second half of the year, but they're trying to put us in a good position, which I haven't been able to say that much. So hopefully we can do something.
My one question here, looking at the schedule, looking at that, setting up, obviously, on one hand, you have a rookie quarterback, but on the other hand, we're in a much different place than we were when Justin Fields was drafted.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any leeway, you think, with Caleb this year?
We won 7 games last year.
Right.
We improved in all the right places. When we were losing games at the beginning of last year, we were giving up like a historic 30 points per game, like from the season before through like week 5 or week 6 of this season.
Right.
Once we got Montez Sweat, we were a top 10 defense. As far as leeway, I think you're aiming to win at least 8-10 games. Like you're not looking to kind of give them a year. Like you're as good as you were last year, if not better. And I think everybody has that same expectation.
If they win 7 games, what will your thoughts be?
It's a good question. Literally kill me. There's a possibility the Bears still ruin this guy. He has
No.
on paper he has a lot of positive traits, but if he doesn't start out hot, if he gets in his head, like again, it's not an easy city to play in. Like look at what happened to Justin Fields. Like you could see like he was weathered by the end of it.
Right.
Same with other quarterbacks before. If he has any sort of turnover problems, I could see it not being a really romantic start. It's been pretty solid, but I was quoted last year saying the Bears Week 1 Packer game was the biggest game in the last 10 years. And we got blown out. We got blown out. It was ugly. So I want to walk in with a reasonable head on my shoulders, but there are a lot of expectations in Chicago once again.
Okay. That's good to hear. Good to know. I was just curious. I wanted to know. When the schedule is out, it feels like football is almost back. So that's why I asked that question. But
weird schedule to look at, but it does feel like
my side of it. I think Cowboys 9-8 at best. It's going to be an ugly year. They got a lot of hard games. They won the division last year.
Zeke.
First place schedule. I'm get out of here with that. First place schedule. I think it's 9-8 at best. It's going to be a long year, and Jerry Jones is going to mess everything up when he doesn't extend any of these guys. So, gonna be very tough to watch outside looking in for me. But and Browns Cowboys Week 1 has a recipe for disaster written all over for me.
Most likely, yeah. But I don't know. They got Noodle Arm will start Week 1. I don't know if he'll go much past Week 1.
But he'll win Week 1 though.
He'll win Week 1. He'll lose Week 2 and Week 3, and then he won't play again the rest of the year.
Definitely.
So rest in peace, the Cowboys.
Yeah, fucking Cowboys. Whatever, though.
They have no plan.
Outside of sports that bring us pain and misery, it's vacation week. This is coming out on Wednesday, May 22nd. So everyone's going to be listening to it then. What's going on? What are the vibes? Tell everybody where you're going. Tell how the week's going to go. What's the vibe at Casa Days?
I cannot tell you how excited I am to not have to work for 2 weeks. This is the longest vacation I think I've ever taken.
Whoa.
Like 2 whole weeks with me and my family, me and the 5 of us. So that'll be fun. We're flying into Rome tomorrow. I got my bag on the floor behind me, mostly packed. Gonna sleep in tomorrow. So excited to do that. Flight's at like 3:30 p.m. Got to trek through the public transportation to get to O'Hare by my lonesome tomorrow. Flying into Rome for 3 or 4 days. Going to do the Vatican.
Nice.
Going to do some other stuff. Positano for like 5 days. We're going to be doing some stuff around there. Pompeii, Vesuvius, that kind of good stuff. A cooking class.
Oh.
Some wineries. And then Naples, some wineries, some good food, some other stuff.
Let me ask you this. Is your mom or dad the planner? And who is the planner and who's the show-upper?
I'm the show-upper at the moment. They both did a lot of planning.
Okay.
And I will say, I think they did a good job of balancing it because I like to relax on vacations, and I actually had this conversation with Maddie the other day, which I thought was funny. Like your vacation, Hawaii, lay on the beach, like be away from everything, being in the sun. That sounds awesome. My family at times, they like to fill up the calendar. You're going somewhere. You're waking up early. You got a hike going on.
Yeah, always.
Yep.
Always.
You got a hike. We're going to this place. Blah blah blah. And then that's I don't love that, but I think they did a good job balancing it this time. We got some free days to wander around and explore.
Okay.
Like I don't need. Obviously you got to do all the touristy things while you're there, but you also need some time to just kind of like walk around, like shop a little bit, like explore the city a little bit. I think that's where you really get immersed in the culture.
I agree. I think it's gonna be great. I think my mother actually had texted your mom for some restaurants and some stuff. I think that was
awesome.
In the works. So yeah, definitely on my side, my mom is the planner. And like you said, we're up early, we're out late. We like to see how many steps we can get in one day, 15,000 steps.
Oh, yeah.
My dad, he shows up and like, we've told him 5 different times what we're doing that day. And he's like, what are we doing today? So we love to make fun of him there.
Dream.
But yeah, he just shows up. He takes off work, shows up, and we go on vacation when I was growing up on family vacation. But yeah, no, that'll be fun. Italy is fucking awesome. And next week, I've been once when I was little and once not high school. I would say like middle school maybe was the last time we were there. So I was like real little, like 4 or 5 once, and then I went another time with my family when I was like, can remember with Jake. That was Jake's first time. So that'll be fun. And It's just like food's great. I love Italian food. I know you like say I love Hawaii, but like I love Italian food. Like Italian food's so good. Like it's gonna be great there. Like you're gonna have so much fun. And
I'm
next
pumped.
week, I'm looking forward for everybody to listen. We're gonna do a split episode. We're gonna do some of
Yep.
it in Italy. We're gonna do some of it in Hawaii. So definitely gonna take wrong side to the islands. I won't say out of the country because my side's not out of the country, but you're definitely taking it out. It's international.
Wrong side
Side's
international, baby.
so
Yes,
that'll
sir.
be great. But yeah, okay, Italy's locked in. Hawaii, I leave Saturday. Cannot wait. I'm just like I'm excited to have my out of office set. Is that tone deaf?
Oh, I
Okay.
got to do that. No,
You
I
gotta
was so
send
excited
that.
to do
You
that.
gotta send it.
I'd probably get in trouble. Do
Because
I
like
put chow in my out of office? Are you gonna put like aloha? You got to do
no.
that.
That'd be so douchey. Fucking chow and aloha. No, yeah, I can't wait. And I was telling my mom, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna set it to out of office because they tell you to like really take advantage of like being away from your computer. And she was like, do you direct anybody? Like, please contact X person. And I was like, no, they're supposed to be please contacting Michael Sharber when certain people are out of the
Yeah.
office, but I won't be here. So no, I'm fucking stoked. Snorkeling, nice restaurants, beach, tanning. I won't look pasty as hell. I'm gonna get base tan this week, so I'm excited.
I got my bleacher bum tan starting.
Oh, how was that
Went to
going?
the game on
Nice
game
farmers.
on Thursday, Saturday. Oh no, I had the polo like all the way in button, so I got a triangle tan thing going on right
Fuck.
here. It's pretty bad in this light, but I had the backwards hat, the white
Oh,
tan
it's
line across
bad.
the
I
forehead.
those get bad.
Yeah.
If you do it consistently, they get ugly.
Yeah, we laid the foundation this weekend. The Cubs did
Great
win on
first
the
one.
walk off
Great
on
first one for
Saturday.
the
Great
summer.
first one. Yes, sir.
Let's
Well, we
go.
also went Thursday and it wasn't as great. And then Skeens pitched Friday and kind of lit our ass up.
Yeah.
But Saturday we won. And
Yeah,
that was the
and
big
Shoto
time.
was nuts.
Oh yeah.
He's insane. Speaking baseball, looking forward next to our interview, Sam Blum joins us in the studio. We did a great interview talking about the Angels, his journey, how he's gotten to this point. Had a ton of career changes from basketball to football to baseball, Virginia football, Auburn football, Siena basketball. He went to Syracuse. We asked him about Cal McCord. We talked a little college football, but we also talked about the Angels. So Angels fans, open your ears, tune in, check out our interview with Sam Blum. Here we go.
Now, welcoming a very special guest into the studio today, Sam Blum, Angels writer for The Athletic, graduate from Syracuse in 2016 with a degree in journalism, has hopped around to a few different places and a few different sports throughout his career, including the Daily Orange, the Tampa Bay Rays, the Rangers, Auburn football, basketball, University of Virginia football and basketball, and very happy to have you in studio today, Sam. Welcome.
You got almost every place. You missed Troy.
Yeah,
New
we
York.
got
That's
Siena and
good.
Rolling Stones. We got that. We got that there too. So.
You got my whole resume there.
Yep.
No, I'm good. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks for coming in. So here at Wrong Side, we really like to talk about how people have gotten to where they are throughout their 20s. Michael and I, as we've talked about, we both live at home, graduated from Ohio State in December of 2022. We follow your work. We love your opinions on the Angels and excited to talk to you today. So kicking it off, tell us about kind of how you got to the Angels, a little bit of your background. How was it like in journalism throughout college? Michael and I were both business majors, so really don't know a ton about the industry and the schooling of all that stuff. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, it's, I've, like you mentioned off the bat, like I've just kind of bounced around so much in my career. And that is, I think, kind of a necessity to some extent, for this industry and for like, you just gotta be willing to go wherever. So like I after I went to Syracuse, I did an internship covering the Rays, then did just bounce around from whether that's Troy, New York to Charlottesville to Auburn to Texas to now finally here, which feels like an actual home for the first time, to be honest with you. So it's challenging in a lot of ways because you're just, like you're there you're at a place for a year and you make a few friends and, you have something of a base and then you just pack up and go because, hey, you didn't make a ton of money. I mean, that's the reality of it. Journalism does not pay well, and you just have to establish yourself. That's all I feel like I've done for 8 years now. And you talk about the challenges of kind of being in your 20s and trying to do that. It really is. It's just a grind, but it's also really fun. So I feel like it's better than having a real job. So I get to be around baseball teams all the time and riff about my opinions. So I mean, it could
So
be a
you've
lot
been
worse.
you've been at a few different levels, like high school, college, pros, football, basketball, baseball. Did you always know you wanted to end up in
Yeah.
pro baseball? Did you play any sports growing up? How does that how do you end up in pro baseball versus something else?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to cover baseball. I mean, to me, it's just like it's a whole. I mean, if you cover football, it's once a week. It's building up to the week. It's almost like a show in a lot of ways. I feel like basketball is somewhat similar in that it feels like it's I don't know. Baseball just has this very authentic way about it. It has like every day is like building toward a larger narrative. I feel like it's just kind of a beautiful game, and so I've always wanted to cover baseball. And I mean, some of my first experiences, like early on, even like in college, just getting a credential to like go to the Mets game or whatever, and you're just in the clubhouse, and it just feels very surreal. So to me, that was like to do this every day. It's still sometimes is like annoying and exhausting, but it's still very cool. Um, yeah. So I mean, I always wanted to cover baseball, but at the same time, like you know, I just want to tell cool stories. I think that's the best part about this job is you get the opportunity to get to know people and to tell their story. I think that's a very gratifying thing, especially like the athletic, where it's so much is not the job is not really to like go to a game and write a game story, as you guys know. It's like you're in a clubhouse or you're around people, like you're looking for interesting stories at all times, whether that's um, a feature on a guy or whether that's like you happen to like the other day you're at the ballpark and you look outside and you see like there's just a ton of fans that
One
can't get in
scanner.
because they're
Yeah.
like not opening all the gates. Yeah, there's one scanner, and like then you never know what the story's going to be or what's going to be interesting. And so I think that there's some freedom in that, and to me, like that opportunity to have the freedom to tell people stories and to tell the story of a season and like the ups and downs, and I mean I like covering the Angels in a lot of ways. I would love to cover a really good team. And if I'm not going to cover a really good team, then I think covering a really bad team is interesting because there's a lot of dynamics as to why this has happened, why they're in this position. I mean, you're obviously an Angels fan, Michael. Like, it's like, yeah, there's pain. It's painful, and I know that as being around Angels fans all the time. So I think being able to be a voice for those people is very, very
Yeah, I
gratifying too.
mean, from my end, like you said, it's painful. Our friend group and I, we all talk about Frank Fleming from Barstool. If you're familiar with Frank the Tank, but he says
Oh yeah,
pain, misery,
of
and
course.
suffering, it'll never end, and he believes that's true. His teams have trouble, but the Angels are the definition of pain, misery, and suffering. And when will it end?
Yeah.
Is kind of the main point, and it's interesting to see different dynamics. You have yourself, you have Jeff Fletcher, you have other people that have worked in for the Angels or around the Angels, and you see different viewpoints. I think it's very interesting, especially yours compared to others. Obviously, Joey and I have kind of talked about it. The people back home know your persona versus others. And I think that is very interesting.
Yeah.
But what has been one moment in the past few years? Obviously you've gotten to this point working in MLB, but what was that first moment where you were like, okay, maybe I have something here. Like maybe not in the MLB, but maybe it was at Virginia, maybe it was in the Daily Orange. What was one time where you thought, okay, I might be cooking here?
I mean, I think like I feel pretty confident like in the work I've done. I think that's important. Is like, hey, like you see the way people react to it. You get a sense like I think if you tell somebody's story who hasn't had it done yet, like you see that they appreciate it. Like to me that's the most really all that matters. Is like finding that people appreciate what you've written about them. But at the same time, like I don't know, it's a tough question to answer because it's like there's not
Right.
a singular moment, but like coming here and you know like even just like the fact that like you guys are like talking about me to your friend group, like I like that. It's like I like that people like care what I'm saying about. You know what I mean? I don't know if that sounds like conceited or not, but it's kind of cool. To me, that's rewarding. Is that when you're doing it, that it matters to people to some extent. So, and having a persona, I don't know about that, but I guess when you compare it to Jeff Fletcher, maybe there's something there. But I
Yeah,
love
I know
Jeff.
you and Jeff.
He tries to keep it very he tries to keep it
Yeah,
very
you and
neutral.
Jeff. I always see your funny quote unquote rivalry on Twitter. So I do see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, from my perspective, you are someone that a lot of my friends and I talk about because as many people don't want to believe, and I know we're the Los Angeles Angels, but there are a lot of fans that believe we're in La La Land. They believe that everything's going to be okay. They believe
Yeah.
that the times will change. But I hate to break it to everyone, the times haven't changed. And you're the only one who speaks out about it. And Joey and I talked about it. How do you deal with the negativity and the way that happens? Like, how do you deal with fans that kind of, and I see you engage. I love it. I mean, it doesn't bother me, but
I probably shouldn't engage. Like, I tell after I do that every time, like, I shouldn't have responded to this effing dude, but like, whatever, it's never worth it. And like, I think it's very tough to do this. Like, even just a few weeks ago, like there was and this was not even an Angel story. Like, I was at Shohei Ohtani's like first home run for the Dodgers, and did a whole story on the fans that caught the ball. And Shohei said after the game, or at least his interpreter said that he said after the game that he met with the fans, which after talking to the fans had never happened. I gave the Dodgers hours to clarify, to figure. After I talked to the fans, I asked them, can you clarify why they declined to do so? Like, I went with what the interpreter said, because that's
you were told.
That's what I always do. Yeah, like, I don't speak Japanese, right? And like, the vitriolic replies to this was just like, it just like gets at you. It really does. So to me, it's like, I mean, I wish I could tell you that like people like being annoying does not bother me, but it does. So I probably should be better about that. I should probably care a little less. But it's but I also think engaging with people is a good thing too, because what are we doing this for if it's not for people to feel like they can communicate to some extent. It's a good balance. It's a tough balance. I think you should probably like avoid it as much as you can, but it's also good to have a dialogue with people, and to make them feel like they can reach you if they have questions, and I think that's helped me to some extent. So it's probably helped a little bit, and my mental health probably hasn't been aided by it.
I love it. I think it gives a very genuine persona, and like I said, like Michael's the Angels fan in the room, so I only recently started following you, but I love it. I feel like I know you a little better just because of that. And another thing, kind of going off of that, you said that the Angels is the first place that really feels like a home to you. I can imagine it's kind of difficult walking into a not so great team, not so great situation. How has that kind of become a home for you, and how emotionally invested do you get in the teams that you work for?
I mean, I think it's more of a home just because I feel like I know this stuff. Like, most of the places I'm listed to you, like I was, been there for a year, or 16 months, 18 months or whatever. I've been here for a while now, so I feel like I understand it. I feel like I can speak authoritatively about this team in a way that I have not been able to do maybe in other places to the extent. And like, also, this is covering a pro team, and I covered a lot of college sports before this, and it's just such a different dynamic. Like, I can walk into a clubhouse and talk to whoever I want in there, and it's when you're covering college sports, it's so much more. They really try to control that message a lot more, and so I don't know. I like it. I just really like doing it. It's really fun. I feel like the place I work at has valued my work to to a large extent. So it's that's really helped. And giving me more opportunities to write national stories and get me on a higher level. So like, I think that's anything. When you're doing any work, I feel like you want to feel valued, and you want to feel like you bring value, and that's where this is kind of gone. That's why it feels like more of a home. Also, just like Southern California compared to like all those random college towns that I lived in. So that's nice. A little more expensive, but whatever. It's worth it to like enjoy the weather and feel like you can walk outside and be happy.
As a Chicagoan, I can't really relate for most of the year, but for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about it with Joey, and like you said, we've gotten to baseball here. What was it like outside of baseball covering a team like Auburn? Auburn's a big brand. They're in college football news a good amount of time. They've definitely been in the news the last few years. They have a chance now, potentially with a roster, to make the playoff. They're a big brand. What was something like that like, and versus kind of Siena? And how did you change the way you reported? Did you change, if anything?
Auburn is a really cool experience. I mean, the year that I covered them for like less than one full year, but they made the Final Four in basketball. The football team was actually really bad that year, but they made the Final Four in basketball, and they made the College World Series in baseball. And it was really cool just to kind of to be a part of all of that, and to be around it. And yeah, I mean, it's like a, I would say UVA was probably like the most intense fan base that I dealt with in terms of like just the level of like dedication. I mean, Auburn's probably just as, I mean, it's not like they're any less dedicated, but just the outlet that I worked at is, there was more of a, I guess, a saturated market in terms of the number of people who were covering Auburn. So it's like, harder to establish yourself maybe to some extent. But with Virginia, like, I worked at the Daily Progress, which is like the hometown paper. And, everything you do is very much scrutinized and, criticized and cared about. And I felt like that fan base was really, really, really like intense. And so, yeah, the difference between Siena is like, it's fine, but it's, it's what it is. And it's just different. So to me, yeah, I mean, I think I think I learned a lot covering UVA, to be honest with you, in terms of like, how do you deal with the fans? How do you deal with criticism? And how do you deal just like with understanding the college sports fan mindset? Cause like, I don't think you can't cover a major league team the same way that you cover a college sports team. The fan base is different. They could, like, I'll put it this way, like UVA could be really bad in football the same way that the Angels are really bad in baseball. And my critical way of talking about them would not go over as well. It just wouldn't. And that's, it's just, there's a different level of connection. You probably would be pissed off if someone was saying something about the Ohio State. So I don't know. It's, or maybe not. I don't know. I felt like small college towns are a very, very, very difficult place for me to operate. But I'm happy to be.
I know, Joey, speaking of Ohio State, Joey, you wanted to ask Sam a question potentially about his Syracuse fandom.
Yes. So not sure how.
I would not call myself a Syracuse fan, by the way. I'm a Long Beach
State
fan.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're aware then, Ohio State's quarterback last year, Kyle McCord, has taken his talents to Syracuse.
Yeah.
Do you have an outlook on Syracuse football this season? Big brand coming from the Ohio State University. What do you think?
New head coach?
Yeah, I'm actually Fran Brown kind of excites me in the sense that, like, the last like 5 or 6 years of Syracuse football was like, that's part of it. I mean, like, I just was not a fan of Jim Boeheim and the way that he interacted with people. Like, wasn't a big fan. I mean, I also cover them. Like, you have to understand, like, when I was there, I wasn't like going to games as a fan. I was going to games as a reporter. And it's the same way. Like, if I stopped covering the Angels, I don't know if I would be like an Angels fan really. But at the same time, yeah, I'm interested in seeing what Fran Brown does. I feel like getting Kyle McCord was like not something that typically happens in Syracuse. So, I mean, I don't know if you feel like he's a good QB or if that's a good fit, but hey,
our emotions on Kyle McCord have changed through the last 12 months, insurmountably.
I will say I was really rooting for Ohio State to beat Michigan, like really, like desperately, because I just do not like Michigan.
Take a ticket. We all.
Yeah, not that, like, the whole thing was such. This whole idea that Michigan had this adversity.
Oh yeah,
adversity. Didn't really. I didn't buy that because
it was
they created.
It was the Kirby Smart level of adversity, we call it, where you pretend there's propaganda that you're going through adversity and everybody's doubted you, but coast to coast, when Georgia won their national title, they were number one. They were never doubted. There was nothing like that. It was kind of the adversity like that. And, Sharon Moore, he had his tears, and we'll get him back. This is the year. I can't wait. This has to be the year, as Joey says.
To be the year.
You guys are turning me into Buckeye.
Let's go.
So we'll see what happens.
We accept all fans, so we'll take you. But obviously, your career has now led you to Anaheim, and kind of the point of where we're talking about now. Obviously, a ton of questions I have, a ton of your opinions, and kind of the way it's been. My friends and I kind of put together a good list, but the first question I do want to have, it kind of goes back to the negativity and the way you speak. I want to know about what happened last April. I'll read you the headline, and you're probably familiar with it. Angels ban reporter banned from team-owned radio. The Los Angeles Angels have banned reporter Sam Blum of The Athletic for team-owned AM 830. Blum says his decision was made by team president John Carpino. John Carpino, zero baseball experience before being hired as president of baseball operations. It's not really even baseball operations, it's just president of the Angels.
He's more of a business operations guy, but
he's in charge of Christmas in July. That's his job. Christmas in July.
But here's the thing, that's what should be the case to some extent. It's that everybody in higher echelons of the Angels just puts their hands at everything, and then it becomes a disaster. So, but I'll let you finish your question. Sorry.
What was the reaction when you saw something like that?
Well, here's what happened. I mean, I wrote a story, last spring about how they were not traveling the radio broadcast, which, by the way, is a joke. They should be traveling the radio broadcast. You have to be, and it's not fair to the broadcasters. It's not fair to the fans, and it's just a worse product. And it's so cheap, and it's like, and of all the things that this place does, it's just indicative of the way that they go about it. It's just not. It's like they won't take the one little investment that could help them and just put it into it because it's not good for their bottom line. Whatever. I guess winning would also be good for their bottom line, but they're not really capable of doing that either. So so I wrote about them not traveling their broadcasters, and every Saturday we would do a beat reporters roundtable on AMA 30, and so I noticed when the first time around when it was only Jeff Fletcher and Rhett Bollinger who were invited to join it, I was like, okay, that is pretty clear to me. So I immediately called the producer, whose producer's great. It's not his fault. And it was like, what's going on? And he was like, well, we're not, he basically explained the situation about how, I have my free speech and I could use it on my website, but I can't go on their radio. And so I decided, I didn't have to tweet it. I could have just let it slide or whatever. But the reason I did was part of me wants for people to understand, one, how the Angels operate when it comes to what they view as dissension or negativity. And I feel like it's relevant for not just myself, but for the way that they do everything. I think it's also relevant when you look at their other their team owned media ventures and how do they communicate to their fans through that. How, if you're listening to the radio broadcast, you should know that they're not going to let anybody on there who they don't think is positive. You should understand that when you're watching the TV broadcast, I think is slightly more independent just because it's it's a Bally's product, but it's still very much jointly connected with the Angels. What is what's and I really respect everybody on the air, so I don't want to come off and say, hey, these guys aren't able to say what they say, because my opinion, Wayne Randazzo, Mark Gubicza, Eric Weston on Bally's are the three of the best you're going to find in baseball, if not the best. So it's just, in my opinion, it's I think it's relevant for people to understand, what is it that they're allowing on and what they're not allowing. So that's why I put it out there, and I could give an F about going on AMA 30. It's fine. They would give us little gift cards or whatever for it, but it's fine. It wasn't really. It was more of me just saying yes to something I try to when I get asked to do stuff. So it's fine. I just felt like it was a relevant thing for Angels fans to understand, and I think that's hopefully what people got from it.
I think that's super interesting because throughout the Angels and your career, you kind of, like we've talked about, you look at it, you're very hypercritical. Is there other instances where maybe people don't want to talk to you as much because they know that's something that's going to come out? Do you have trouble moving through the facilities like that? How does that affect the day-to-day?
Well, I have not had that experience yet. So I tend to think that people respect it. I think that, you can, and the other thing is, I think as long as you're fair, critical is, I think there's a very big difference between negative and critical, because critical is just, being critical of the facts. Anything negative is just looking for a negative spin on things. And it's just not, I don't think the Angels deserve it, right? I think everyone understands it. I think the players in that clubhouse understand it. So it's, I think the coaches on the staff understand that to some extent. It's tough. You're dealing with players and the coaches in front office, and it's their livelihoods. They're putting everything they can into this. I know that. But I think it's important to be respectful of everyone and not to just take cheap shots at people, not to just crap on people individually. It tends to be why most of my criticism is directed at ownership. Now, do I think that everything's going really well with the coaching staff and the players and the front office? Obviously not, because they would be doing better. But I think it really starts with the Angels ownership. And I think as long as you contextualize everything that you're writing and saying with that understanding, people will tend to respect it and understand it. So, it's just a balancing act. The other thing is showing up, if you're there every day or you're there, especially after you write something critical and you show up the next day, you give people an opportunity. And that's a very important thing, an opportunity to say what they want to say to you. And if they don't say anything to you, then they don't really have a right to say no to talking to you the next day. They've been given their chance.
Something about being very fair is the article you posted today. We're recording this on Monday, May 13th. You posted an article about second chances. And the way you wrote about it and the way the players talk is you do feel for them. It is their career. It's nice to see that guys are getting second chances. But that being said, the names that were listed in this article, if you told me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I'd think, wow, maybe we got a pretty good team. We got some depth. We got Amir Garrett in the bullpen. We got Hunter Strickland in the bullpen. We got Carson Fulmer of Vanderbilt, who did fantastic there. We have Hicks, 5 years ago, was decent in New York. Sano still was coming off good seasons. If you told me that 5 years ago, I'd be pretty excited. But that seems to be the last 10 years. We're getting guys past their prime. And I appreciated you kind of the way you talked about it, how those guys were grateful for the second chances. But as an organization standpoint, these aren't the guys that potentially might move us forward. And they've kind of put themselves in the hole with the depth they built in spring training and the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of these guys that are on this roster weren't even in
Right.
the organization, like in spring training. Like, you know, you just mentioned like Kevin Pillar, you know, Amir Garrett, like Cole Tucker. I mean, there's so many. I mean, there's, you know, trying to think.
We got Sano
who
wasn't
was
in the
in there,
organization before this year. Willie Calhoun,
Yeah.
Nico Goodrum, like
Yeah. Oh, Willie Calhoun. Yeah. A lot of these guys weren't even in
Yeah.
spring. Like Nico Goodrum is picked up the other day. So it's like there's so many guys that just like. And when you look at what's depth, like you need to have people that you can call up that you feel like will contribute. And part of that is developing minor leaguers in your system that like. So not every single person who can play Major League Baseball is on the Major League team. You want to have people that can play Major League Baseball in AAA
Right.
and in AA. So when you need them, you can call on them, and that's just not the situation here. And in fact, like because they've been cycling so many guys through, I mean, the just what's depth right now is like so thin. It's like, you know, and that's why all of these teams are in last place in their minor league system. It's like it's just not a good situation right now. And you know, and I look at the criticism of you know, and I criticize obviously the owner, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, you know, it's not better. It's gotten worse. That depth has gotten worse, and it's not. And that those minor leaguers have not moved through the system, and it's just not working. So it's hey, like Perry does a good job, I think, to some extent, but I also think like the results are just very important, and where you're at right now, or the results.
I think another thing with minor league development is what Barry Enright said this spring about the pitching labs. It was very tough to hear about that, how we are kind of behind and everybody's doing this, and finally they're just beside the pitching lab, they're finally just improving their minor league things, and people wanted to see that, and we're behind on that. You're treating these players like they're not players, and it was tough.
Yeah, they were eating out of they didn't even have a kitchen in their clubhouse. It was like in a food truck next to it. I mean, and that story I thought was very indicative of the Angels organization as a whole, because Barry Enright says all that stuff, and then I go and try to confirm it with Perry and with anybody in the organization, and they won't even confirm that they were even doing it. He stepped out of turn to say that, and I think he did it, you know, with the understanding that like I got to push this, I got to make sure they do this. You know, I don't know that for a fact, but that's just the sense I got. So to me, that's. That is like very Angels to me, that, you know, they couldn't even like know. And this was like a week before the renovation was supposed to start. So who knows? I mean, they spent 4 years in the minor league clubhouse. So we'll see what happens when, you know, we get to Tempe in February. But it's just so many things that just feel like they're discombobulated, and you know, I put some of that on everybody, especially the GM. I think, you know, this is, you know, to not be able to understand and communicate, and you know, that's not fully his fault, but that's who the Angels have speaking for them.
And I think it's tough, especially coming from Atlanta. They've been so far advanced in everything, in contracts and analytics. They are a very good organization as well. And it's tough to see that, I think, when you come in, and you would think he maybe could step up a little more and say something. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I don't know. But it is important, especially in the minor league side, I would say. But looking at the minor league side, I wanted to talk about last year. I was telling Joey about it, that the day we traded for Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez, I was at softball. I was going up to bat at Soul Pitch Softball, and I heard about the trade. And you were on the next day on MLB Network with Brian Kenny talking about the trade, and everything you said was right. Risky push the Angels are making. We are 4 games back. You said we are 4 games behind. Is this what we want to do? Shuffling guys in and out. Along with that, you said it looks like an Angels team who doesn't look like they have a plan for after 2023. Absolutely true. You talk about depth.
Man, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. And the last quote I actually wrote down is, his boss is who his boss is, talking about Perry. But, you know, do you think I was more concerned? I felt like the trade obviously wasn't great to begin with at the moment. I felt like that was a lot for just a wild card spot. I never thought we had a chance at the division. But were you more bummed about the Kai Busch part or the Edgar Quero part. My reasoning of Edgar Quero is I felt like he was potentially logjam with Ohapi. I thought Ohapi I think he's the captain of this team. Personally, I love Ohapi, but also kind of look at the viewpoint of a Chase D'Arnaud, Sean Murphy potential setup in the future. So I don't know what your thoughts were on that.
I mean, I think that I don't know how much Edgar Quero was looking to profile as a catcher to begin with. So maybe more of a DH or a first baseman or something like that. That being said, I mean, I look at that trade, and it's obviously in hindsight, it's a horrible trade.
They didn't even finish the season with us.
There's no other way to look at it. Yeah, there's players. Yeah, they nothing. I think the criticism of that trade, what you have to contextualize it with all the things they did before and all the things that happened afterward. So, in my opinion, like if you were going to make that trade, then you have to be willing to do what it takes to keep Ohtani. And once the deferral thing came for Artie, he didn't want to do that, and like that's just it. The price was very fair. And so, like in my opinion, like if you're going to make a trade like that and just like trade away like your two top prospects who probably are both going to be in the big leagues and probably would both be in the big leagues right now if they were still here, is you have to be able and you have to be willing to do what it takes to keep Ohtani. And I also think like it's just, if you're going to make a trade like that, then, there's just so many things that would have to happen before that and in terms of establishing a, overall, strong operation, within like the minor leagues and, the major league roster. And it's just like, it felt like one of those, man, we're just going to roll the dice and pray for like, how do you play craps? I don't know. What do you need? I don't know. It's just like you're praying for something that like is like a small chance. And hey, I mean, and you look at FanGraphs, like those playoff odds at that time were like 20%. So it's a 1 in 5, and you're basically like just doing whatever you can to have a miracle shot at the playoffs. And that's part of not going to the playoffs for a decade is, hey, if you're even remotely close, like you're just you feel the pressure to do it. But I just. Anyone who says they like that deal, I think, is negating the context of the deal. I think in the moment, if it's just in a vacuum, is it a justifiable move? Yes. But so many other things happened before that and happened after that make me feel like, no, that was a dumb trade.
And it wasn't more so, if there was no Mike Trout and there was no Shohei Ohtani and you were just kind of rolling for a playoff run, I actually probably wouldn't have been that upset about it. I think in like you said, contextualizing it, if it was just that one move and other things were going on, it's one thing. But at that point in time, you saw that this could be trouble. This could be trouble moving forward. And it was. You said it yourself. And one thing I wanted to get your opinion on are with the Phillies and the Angels, they had some trades. Obviously, 2 years back, the Marsh for a Hoppy deal, which I believe – I'm a big Ohapi guy. I know Marsh has done very well there, but it was kind of win-win. Position-wise,
I am too. I mean, Ohapi
I think position-wise, it was a very win-win trade, and obviously Moniak for Thor for Syndergaard. I don't know if you saw Kevin Long, or I was Marsh talking about Kevin Long and development. How did you view that statement he made about the hitting and the way they play baseball there and the lineup structure every other day?
Yeah. I actually did a story of like back in 2022 at the World, because I was covering the Astros in the World Series that year. And so I remember like just on media day, like talking to Kevin Long for a while and Brandon Marsh about like, because once he went to the Phillies, he ended up playing pretty well the second half of that season with some immediate improvements. And it was to me, it was just like very concerning that like these were things that weren't being addressed with the Angels. Cause I mean, Kevin Long's an established, respected big league hitting coach. And the fact that he kind of like was almost like laughing off just all the things that they weren't doing with the Angels is like, yikes, and Brandon Marsh, every day I felt like he loved being here, but then you get a sense of maybe he didn't or maybe he just knows better now. And I agree, like those trades, like Ohapi's a dude, man. That's a great trade for the Angels, I think. Not to say Brandon Marsh isn't, but I think Ohapi just is like what this team needs right now, maybe more than what Brandon Marsh brought. Because I agree, it's Mike Trout's team right now, but I mean Logan Ohapi, it's going to be his, right? I think everyone recognizes that as long as he's here. He's a professional. He's honest. He's works really hard. I mean, I think that, man, if they could get like 2 or 3 more guys like him, they'll have a chance. But it's just they don't grow on trees, so it's tough. But God, and the Moniak deal. I mean, at the time, last year looked pretty good. I mean, I think Moniak's just it's just the strikeouts are just the swing and miss.
He's worthless against left-handed pitching, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's he made some strides there last year, and I don't want to say worthless because I feel like it's a tough way to like describe him. Is I think it's in there. Obviously, he was a number 1 overall pick, but I mean, it's not translating right now, and it's obviously a concern. And he's such a good guy, and I really do hope that
His
he
birthday
figures it
today.
out.
Happy
But
birthday, Mickey.
oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, so it's I think it's in there. I think he's still a pretty young guy. I mean, we're seeing Joe Adele kind of figure some things out this year. So there are some bright things happening with the Angels. It's just you can't win as every fan knows, you can't win with a couple of good things happening. You need a foundation, and that's just not what theirs is. Sorry,
Joe was going to say something, but
oh yeah.
I saw
Right.
one of the things you said about Adele and the tweet last night. You talked about it, rebuild. They've never committed to a rebuild. I was telling Joey when we were talking about this interview, we've in 61 years, however long it's been since 1961, when the team started, they've never finished in the last place of the division. And if you were to tell me 5 years ago that in 2024 the Angels and Astros would have the same exact record, I couldn't tell you how excited I would be. Would I?
That's a very good point.
That we'd be tied for last? Absolutely not. But my question is, what do you think a path is for a rebuild? Do you think that there's a Trout trade? I know he loves California and he wants to stay, and I know he's in love with Jeter and wants to be the Jeter here. He wants to win here. I understand that, and I personally respect that. Growing up, Laker fan, Kobe staying here. He had his chances to leave. He won here. It was great to see. But what do you think the steps are for a rebuild? Like, how do you think they can even get to that point with how bad the minor league system is?
I don't even. Here's the thing with I look at the Angels as like they should be the Dodgers, they should be the Mets, they should be the Yankees, they should be that because they're in that market. That fan base is here. I think that this is a sleeping giant for a baseball town, in my opinion. Anaheim is a very, very good baseball city that has a lot of fans that really, really care. To me, like I don't even think you need like a tear. I think there's a difference between a rebuild and like a tear down, which is what we've seen some teams do. Like the Astros did it back a decade ago. Orioles did it recently. The Reds. I mean, you've seen that. I don't think that there's no reason why the Angels should do that. I look at like what the Mets are doing this year, where they are not necessarily like going all in for a World Series, but possibly putting together a roster they view as, competitive enough to make a playoff run. And that's what I think a rebuild in Anaheim should look like. Like you should be able to, put prospects in your system, develop them. I think with the Angels, they might need to like sacrifice, to some extent to be able to like really like once the deadline comes, if some of these guys in the bullpen are still performing, like replenish your even someone like Tyler Anderson, Hunter Strickland's like actually done pretty well for them. Like just get what you can, get as many young players as you can because last year, I mean, you talk about Caro and you talk about Kai Busch, but they traded away like 11 minor leaguers, all of whom like netted the major league players. So they not only like I don't know how many of those guys would have been in the big leagues, but those guys all had like at least some trade value to bring back major league players. And so I think that's one of the real issues where they're at right now is that they don't even have like trade capital in their minor league system. So yeah, I mean, to me, like you just have to be willing to take some hard lumps. I don't think it means that you have to like tear it down. I don't think it means you have to trade Trout. I just think it means like, still investing in your payroll while also like doing everything you can to like acquire prospects and to not mortgage your future in any way, shape, or form. And that might take a couple of years, and it might take like some good drafts, and it might take some good luck, but it might take some pain, but it will also be worth it because I promise you, like that's like even look at the Royals that just came in last year. I mean, that's what they did to some extent. They have some good young players. They took their lumps last year. Then what happened? I mean, they went and invested in a few veterans that have really like Seth Lugo dominated yesterday. He's had an insane year. He's a great example. I look at the Rangers as a team really bad in 2021. I was around them in 2021. Really bad in 2020, 2021. But you know what? They invested in a couple really important players, and then their minor leaguers have really come up and done well for them. So that's what this organization needs to model itself after. What the Royals are doing, what the Rangers are doing, what the Mets are doing. And I don't think you need a full scale rebuild. You just might have to take your lumps. But man, if it's happening, Angels fans will be thrilled because they'll see it happening. The toughest thing for fans right now is they look into the abyss and they see nothing. It's not happening. But I think if you can see a plan and a future, then everybody will be okay coming to games for losses. They'll be okay coming to watch Zach Neto and Logan O'Hoppe and whoever else comes up because they'll be excited about what it means for them.
I 1,000% agree. I think it's very tough. I mean, especially with the way they've gone the last few drafts, Neto, Shanuel, Silseth, the way they've brought the guys up. It's very tough to like get down and feel like, man, Shanuel is struggling at the plate. But like, can you it's tough to be hard on him because he hasn't even been here. He just graduated college like last year. 40 games, 40 at bats in the minor league. So it's so tough to be hard on that. But
And like earlier this year, I mean, not
Yeah.
to interrupt you, but like earlier this year, like I went and like had to talk. I mean, I wrote a story about him and
Yes.
Neto.
Yes.
They were really struggling at the beginning of the year, and I was like, I got to go talk to these guys about it before I write this because that's the only it's fair. But and I'm like, so like I feel like bad about doing it, but then you know what? They're like, I'm not the one who's put them in the big leagues. You know what I mean? I'm not the one and they handled it professionally and great and never hold a grudge, at least as far as I'm aware. But at the same time, like it's you're putting these people in positions to struggle, and that is something the Angels have to reconcile. And rushing your guys up to the big leagues is not a recipe to win. And then to reframe the narrative as look at how fast our guys are moving through the system. Our system is great. That's not what's happening here. You're doing it out of desperation. You're drafting for a first baseman because you need a first baseman, and you should never make your first round pick based on who you need. I mean, that's it's not healthy. It's not a good way to run a major.
How do you think they handle then, like a Caden Dana, a Nelson Rada, a Ben Joyce now moving forward? I mean, I love Caden Dana. I think he's great, but I really don't want to see them this year. I would love for them to get a couple more innings down there. Nelson Rada is only 18 years old. How do you think they handle those kind of players who have done pretty well at the minor league level without calling them up, especially the way this season's tracking? We might break that 66 player record of the most players in a season. The way it's tracking right now, how do you think they handle that?
I honestly think that there's a decent chance you'll see Caden Dana this year, and I agree with you. I wouldn't think it's the smart thing to do. I don't know for certain, but I think they're keeping their mind open to it. And I don't know if that's going to be because they feel like, man, we're so bad, we just desperately need somebody to come in and win for us, or if they're going to do it because Perry's in the last year of his contract, wants to show what the work he's done to his boss. Like I don't know what the motivation would necessarily be, if it's just to get him innings and to get him a feel and some meaningless games, maybe, but like. You also really got to consider like what's the best thing for the player. What's the best thing for the GM, not what's the best thing for the fans, like or anybody else besides what is the best thing for this player, because that will end up being what's best for everybody else. You put that person in the best position to succeed, and they just consistently have not done that, in my opinion. They don't rush every player up. I think that they do some assessments in terms of like who they think can handle it and who they don't think can handle it, but I just tend to disagree with the overall way of going about it. And then also to not really have backup options. You talk about Chanwell, like what would happen if they were to send him down? They don't really have anybody else. They could have signed J.D. Davis this offseason, who after he was let go by the Giants. They could have signed. Yeah, they could have tried to maybe sign like a Joey Votto. They could have signed like whoever. I mean, just a warm body. But like instead, they don't really have those options.
I felt like the way they handled it the last few years, it's very fascinating to me because a couple of seasons ago, I felt like they were kind of starting to teeter that way. They got Escobar. They were getting some guys. This is a while ago, obviously, but they were kind of on that direction of maybe there's a chance. And it does hurt now. It's been, I don't know if you saw CBS's Instagram post on yesterday. It was most playoff wins since 2010. We have 0. Every other team has at least 1. And of course, I know it's cherry picked. We were in the ALCS in 2009 against the Yankees, but it's tough to see. It's been 15 years. And I mean, there's nothing better than those thundersticks being blown up. I truly believe it. Like I grew up with some great teams, and you had some. I could tell you exactly where I was when Vladdy hit that base hit against Papelbon in the 9th in 2009. I was going into Witch to get a sandwich with my parents. Like I could tell you exactly some big moments. Just last week, we talked about on the podcast. I sat next to this scout for the White Sox, Bill Schur. I went on and on about how I hated AJ Przinsky because of 2005, and then 15 minutes later, he told me I actually work for the White Sox, and I was like, oh crap. So it's very tough for me to see these kind of things. And I do care. And I think there's fans that just want to have a good time. And I get that. But sports to me are life. When things don't go my way in sports, and I don't like a ton of World Series, Super Bowl, NBA teams, but when things don't go my way, it sucks. And I've played baseball my whole life. I wanted to play in college. I didn't play D1 level. I just played at a club level, like at Ohio State. It was great. But baseball has been everything to me. And seeing this continue to happen and to see my friends, my friends and I, and growing up in California, we didn't all have the same football team. Some people liked the Chargers. Some people liked other teams because there wasn't a real LA team when we were growing up. There was no Rams yet. And we say how awesome a championship would be here. All of us getting to celebrate for once. Just a playoff appearance we're begging for. And it just hurts. And like all of us are tired of the act, and we're tired. And that's why we talk about you and the way you speak, because you're honest. And that's the way we've turned into. We've grown up. It's one thing to admire these guys, but now you're getting upset because you're now a part of this team and you feel like it's part of you. And it is hurtful to see it continue to falter.
Yeah, no, I I think it's very well said. I mean, it's just it's painful for the fans. I think that is like the number one thing. And then we talk about like just like the stuff of like not letting them in the game, and it's just it feels like it's just a middle finger to them at times, and I don't understand why that's the case here. I think it's sad, and you're right, man. If what this I was just talking to the Angels PR guy today about this. I was like, what would this place be like in a playoff game? No,
Okay.
Adam Chodsko. I do love him. And that's the thing I think people don't really realize. Like the Angels PR staff is awesome, in my opinion. Like they're great people. They all do a really good job. I think it's a really tough job with everything that's kind of transpired here, and just they're the butt of every joke, and there's so many scandals, and it's like none of it's their fault, but it's just the reality of it. And yeah, I mean, I think what would it be like to have this place filled in a playoff game? I can't even imagine it. I've never seen it. I mean, I went to some 09
Same.
playoff games because I lived in New York, but so it's it to me it would be just a special thing, and it sucks for these fans that care so much and that still come out and that still really give a shit. So it's tough that sorry if I can't. I don't know. They give a shit. So it's not like it's not a it's not a laid back fan base in a lot of ways. I think the atmosphere. I mean, Orange County is what it is, but these people really care, and it's really hard that they can't have 15 years.
Yeah,
that's a long time. It's not. I mean, it is cherry picked in a lot of ways. It's like very reasonable time span to like expect a team to win a playoff game. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see if they can ever figure it out. I just am so skeptical that it's going to be done with Artie Moreno as the owner.
I think you mentioned it earlier.
I think it's
the most important thing for a lot of struggling franchises. The Chicago franchises a lot of them were in the spot for a long time, is having a plan. Ryan Poles has become the savior for the Bears, trading the first round pick last year to get DJ Moore. Like we're looking good. We had a plan. We executed a plan. And I was celebrating Mother's Day. I was with my family and my cousins and uncles who are 50 plus years old. So this is the first time in, I don't even know how many years I can be excited about a Bears season. We have a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterbacks don't usually pan out. So just even the plan and possibility has this city buzzing. So what do you think is one change that the Angels could make to kind of show the fans that there is a plan? Is it investing in the minor league system? Is it acquiring draft capital, stuff like that? What would you like to see happen kind of first if you were in charge?
I think the crazy thing is like the biggest problem I think is they always think that the Angels have always thought of it as what is one thing we can do. That's what they've always looked at as what is one thing, and they don't realize that it is a combination of many things that need to be done a little bit better, not significantly better, but a lot of things need to be done a little bit better. Some significant, I think. I don't even know which I mean, to me, the biggest thing is treating your minor leaguers the right way, and there's definitely been some improvements, but those are mandated by the league through like the union now and minor leagues and some, changes that the league forced every team to make. But I was pretty appalled in 2021 when I went down, to AA and kind of saw the way the players were living and like this brand new, beautiful ballpark. And then you go to like their homes and it's like decrepit. There's like bugs and it's like, what are we doing here? And that shouldn't be the way any team treats their players, and I was pretty shocked about that. And I mean, there's a lot of stories from that year 21 from minor league players, and I think that people got fed up in that system. And to me, that's the biggest thing. I mean, if you could say, hey, our minor leaguers are going to eat well, they're going to have their own bed, they're going to have their own room, they're going to be able to bring their wives if they have them, and just live a comfortable lifestyle. And be able to like show up to the ballpark and do their jobs. I think that would make their system a lot better, in my opinion. So that's the first thing I would do, because it's a humanitarian thing and it's just the right thing to do, and I think it would really help.
You also mentioned you put them in the same category as the Dodgers and big market teams like that. I feel like the national story isn't always like that. Are the Angels a mid market team or a big market team? So do you feel that they're acting the way they should? Is it a money thing? No. I guess it all goes back to ownership, yes. But yeah, I think that's interesting that they very easily could be this major powerhouse, huge market team. Shohei Ohtani went to the brother down the road because they threw big market money at him. So
yeah, I mean, if you think about what was the Dodger, what was the sale price going to be for when Artie Moreno pretended to want to sell the team?
He was paying 4. It was like 3.1 or 3.4 billion, and it was all dependent on that contract.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you think about it. Yeah, a lot of it was dependent. I mean, obviously Shohei beefed up
at the time, though.
Significantly, but you're and you're still. But my point is 3.1. Like say anything $3.3 billion. The Mets sold to Steve Cohen for like $2.4 billion, I think. So you're thinking about a team like the Angels, like that is an insane valuation, and it speaks to the locate. I mean, Southern California, it speaks to like the market, the LA market. I mean, and the potential to own the land around the stadium, which has obviously also been a whole separate source of chaos in the city. So that's the way I look at it. Like that's when I say that it's because of that. It's because you know what the potential is and you know what the fan base is. I mean, the Angels have their own distinct fan base from the Dodgers, even though they pretend that they're in Los Angeles and they say the LA Angels. This is an Orange County fan base that there's fans that come out. I mean, I'm sure people from LA come to Angels games, but I don't think that's the majority of the fans. And I think that most people are living in the Anaheim area or living in Orange County, and they're living south. They're coming up, and it's like that's what you should embrace having that elite location. In my opinion, and it's just they haven't done it. And they look like the Ducks right down the road. I mean, they're not good right now, but you could see the plan in place. You could see the idea. You could see the the overall like fan experience and what's happening. And it's like, okay, like I see that, I get it, and I'm sure that in a couple of years that's going to start translating quite well. But I just think the Angels need to commit to being able to allow that to happen, like and treating their fans the right way and not spurning them for a different name like the Los Angeles Angels. I think that's a huge disrespect to them.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioned it was going to be one of my last questions. It is my last question I had written down was, it's kind of like a two-parter, but do you think new ownership, do you think fans can believe it's still potentially going to happen within the next year or two? That's part one.
Oh, okay. I'd be surprised, to be honest with you, but I also don't know for sure. I mean, I was pretty surprised the first time this all happened, and I also wonder why he's still owning the team. Not as an insult to Artie necessarily. I just don't really understand it. Like he's not really investing in anything. I don't know. Maybe it's bringing him a lot of money. I just don't really understand. Like the team's not good. He doesn't seem to have any trust in like his employees, like that he's hiring. Like they're all like on 1 or 2 year deals. Like, so what is it that he's getting out of this? I just don't understand. I mean, I don't know what the situation with the land deal is.
I think it's being part of a boys club. He's part of a select group of 30 teams, 30 owners that he gets to say he owns a baseball club. I think it's ego at this point.
That's the most, you're right. That's probably the most logical explanation. To me, I just don't really get it. So, I mean, he's like 77 years old. His kids are not interested in owning the team. So at some point, I mean, you're going to have to sell it. So maybe it could be the next couple of years. I don't really understand the thought process behind what he's been doing. So I just would not want to predict it too strongly one way or the other. So is there a possibility? I mean, of course, but it doesn't feel.
My second part of that question was, do you think either him or the new owner, what are the odds they move to Long Beach and leave Anaheim or somewhere else?
I'd be very surprised. To me, this is a good location.
I agree.
It is. The ballpark itself needs some upgrades, which is a whole other thing.
Agreed.
Yeah. Needs upgrades. Yeah. And you walk around it, it's like the food is not good, whatever. It's just like I'm not even talking about media food. I'm just like I don't even eat the media.
Get some Wetzels. It's the best spot there. Get some Wetzels.
Yeah. There's like places you can go to just like get through the day, but I don't think they're going to move to Long Beach. I mean, who knows? The lease is up in 2038 officially, so they're going to have to establish some sort of plan here soon. I mean, especially with, I think it's a potentially, you think long term, like it's a potentially very serious question because with him, not owning the team beyond like a certain number of years, him with his age and his lack of a succession plan, and the fact that they don't have like any sort of set plan beyond 2038. It might feel like a really long time, but you're also talking about like huge things that would need to be happening. And those take years and years to kind of establish. So they really do need to like figure something out on this front, probably in the next 2 to 3 years, I would think at the very most. So we'll see what happens. But I would be surprised to move to Long Beach. And I certainly don't think they're moving out of the, SoCal market. It's too good of a market. I don't know where they would go. And there's too much money involved in being here. So, I guess the worst case would be they move to a Long Beach type of place, but I think they're staying in Anaheim. Just a matter of figuring out the deal.
I'd agree. Before we wrap up, would you take at number 8?
Oh, the draft. I couldn't give you a great answer. I will say I know he's not going to get to 8, but I love what I think it's.
Charlie Condon would be great. I would love if he fell to 8.
He's not getting fouled 8. But
Would you
man,
pass on Chase Burns?
I'm a. I don't want to give you too many on my analysis on college baseball. Although I will say, like, I love my team. My college baseball team is Columbia Lions. I grew up going to Columbia games because I'm from New York City. So they're really good. They got their Ivy League championship this weekend. So I'll be rooting for them. Maybe they'll take Jack Cooper or something. He's like hit 17 home runs or something this year. And the Angels actually have a guy from Columbia in their system, Andy Blake, who's I think in high A. So hey, that's my experience with college baseball. I don't really have a great. Get back to me in July when it all starts counting.
Wrapping up here. Thank you, Sam. For listeners, check out his work on The Athletic. He's great. Follow him on Twitter. He's well worth your follow, in my opinion. As an Angels fan, as a sports fan, Joey's now following. So check him out. Check out Sam. Thank you again for coming. I appreciate it. Joey appreciates it. And we're happy to have you.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, AJ. Very nice.
Thanks, guys. Now we're going to get to our clutch moment of the week.
Sweet.
Our clutch moment of the week is brought to you by Shore Metals, premier metal supplier since 1970, big enough to serve you and small enough to know you. See Stan, he'll help you out. Joey, who's your clutch moment of the week?
I have to shout out Karl Anthony Towns, Jaden McDaniels, the Minnesota Timberwolves role players. Jaden McDaniels, we talked about him at the beginning of the series, was very, very good against the Suns in the first round, and it kind of disappeared at the beginning of this series. But today, he went 7 for 10, had 23 points, 3 for 4 from 3. Cat, 8 for 14, 23 from him as well. Only 1 for 6 from 3, but he shot well through most of this series as well. Naz Reid came in when Rudy fouled out. Cat was in foul trouble.
Insane.
And he looked great as well. So I have to shout out all those guys. Anthony Edwards said it. He had to trust his teammates stay, and they got the job done when they kind of hadn't prior to this. But even Rudy Gobert hit an absolutely absurd fadeaway in Jokic's face to kind of put the cap on the game. So shout out Cat and his zesty ass. Shout out the Timberwolves role players.
I didn't love when they showed it, but I will say I did love the mic'd up section they did show. I don't love it when it's being played during the game, but I did love that Ant said during shoot around at halftime coming into the third quarter, said, I'll set more screens this half. I'll move more. He knew his role and he started doing that. So I really, really liked seeing that. My clutch moment of the week goes out to last week's interviewer, Matt Brown, who was in the studio. He was killing it on Twitter this week. Obviously, stuff came out about NCAA. That was great. And people were still hounding him. He was coming back with great tweets saying, relax, you're more impatient than my little kid. And I thought it was just hilarious. So shout out Matt, shutting down the haters, shutting down the people, told them, we don't need you. I don't need you. Thought it was awesome. Shout out Matt. Shout out the T-Wolves bench. Now to Outside the Line.
Wrapping it up with Outside the Line and starting out with our tone deaf person of the week, Michael. Who you got first?
So I got a tie of two. One is in basketball, one's in NFL, but I felt like they were both kind of relevant. Tone deaf was ESPN for basketball. Yesterday and today, a lot of big games going on, a lot of big topics, a lot of big storylines. They could talk about the Knicks making it back to the conference finals. They could have prepped for the Timberwolves or the Nuggets or the Pacers. A lot of teams. What was the story going on yesterday, 35 minutes before tip-off? Could Stephen A. Smith score a bucket on LeBron James? What in the fuck? How is that a topic? That's like talking about the Cowboys during the Super Bowl. Like, that's like very similar when they always talk about like Dak and it's like 2 weeks after Dak's been eliminated. Like, move on. Talk about something else. I just thought that was incredibly tone deaf. That was one.
Who said he could do it?
I just saw the clip on Twitter. I think it was him. He believed he could do it. Everybody else was like, no, you cannot. So Stephen A. Smith,
I could score a bucket on LeBron.
No, you could not. No,
I think I could.
He would just block by James. That's what happened to both of us. We wouldn't score. Even if we could score, there's semifinal basketball being played. Talk about that. My other tone deaf is why do we even do the NFL schedule? Like, why is there a date and time where it's coming out? It's out. I knew 12 out of 17 games the Cowboys had before the schedule came out. And I knew I could tell who the other 5 games were just based on the graphic they do like at the end of the season where it's like home and away. So you can do the math to see who you're missing and when they're going to play. But every game was leaked by 4:00 Pacific. It was supposed to come out at 5. I mean, there was a Google sheet that was being sent around. Everybody was tracking games. It's over.
Ridiculous. Yeah. Why even do it? Like we talked about with Matt last week on like things getting leaked, like on some ways it can drum up the hype, but in something like this, and also like the NFL draft, we talked about a couple of people on Twitter like being like 5 minutes ahead somehow.
Yeah.
Like ruins it for everybody else because like some people know, some people don't want to know, and it just like makes everything suck.
Once they leaked it, like I was seeing the leaks on like schedule rumors and like beat reporters for different teams, but once the leaks were coming out, the NFL was like releasing it like week 11 Cowboys Texans, like they were like confirming the rumor, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, shouldn't you be the one waiting for this? Like, so I just thought that was crazy. And the Chiefs I saw are playing on like every day this season. They have like almost every day they play. And so, schedule leakers, they're tone deaf as well. Those are my 2 tone deafs. Yeah. But next week, super excited for next week's tone deaf because we're both going on vacation, meaning we both get security people and airport people. Oh, we're going to feast next week in this segment. We're going to feast.
This whole segment literally came out of Michael's hatred for people in the airport. So this is
our Super Bowl. This is our Super Bowl. So I can't wait. Who is your tone deaf person of the week?
Mine, keeping it in the family with Matt Brown and the Buckeyes and everything. EA college football trailer was tone deaf as fuck. Whoever the fuck that Michigan executive,
I found his name. If anybody's willing to email him,
his address.
I don't have his address, but his name, Rob Jones of EA Sports. In the quoted article, a devout Michigan fan with memorabilia all over his office.
Oh, Ohio State is objectively a top 2 logo brand college in the country. Literally anything. And this is where we showed up in this trailer. That was a good handful of minutes. Donovan Edwards stiff arms a Buckeye into the ground. Immediately cuts to Kyle McCord handing off in Syracuse. Syracuse football got more airtime than any of the Ohio State Buckeyes. So Kyle McCord hands off, and the only other time we show up is a Georgia player shaking the boots off of an Ohio State guy.
And Illinois 52, Ohio State 42, lifting that turtle trophy. I didn't even know we had that because I didn't. Of course, we always win. And
they haven't won it since 2007.
We get a Brutus headbang. That's what we got
for like half a second.
And
That's
Army
ridiculous.
and I saw the service schools showing the option play. They got a full play.
Wyoming got a whole bunch of time.
Florida, they're getting a touch. I did see one thing. Parks, I think is his last name for Clemson. I don't know if you saw this, but they posted a picture and like he's way bigger in the game, and he was like, "Yo, guys, not cool." So shout out to Parks.
He got the really tough lineman lineman build in
generic,
where it's like really fat. Generic. Yeah. They got to get rid of that one a long time ago. But
that's brutal. But no, so tone deaf. Although I'm excited, I'm ecstatic. I can't wait to buy this game. I can't wait to start an online dynasty. Still, tone deaf. Buckeyes got fucked.
I think we should fill up. I think we could easily fill up 32 people. Like we should host a dynasty league.
Oh, wrong side. Yeah, okay. If anybody's interested, DM us, comment on our
DM us, yes.
Yeah, we'll start one, whatever conference. We could probably do MAC or we could figure it out.
We could easily get 32 people together.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. Wrong side dynasty.
We'll do it.
Everybody's interested.
Get us going at wrong side takes.
Love that. Okay, right and wrong side before we wrap up.
My right side, we've already kind of talked about it. PTO, vacation, no work for 2 whole weeks. I have been absolutely going through it with a lot of just like real fucking annoying, problematic things that make me wanting to rip my hair out the last month or so at work. So I actually left everything in a pretty good place on Friday. I'm about to turn my automatic reply out of office thing on, which is going to feel great. And 2 whole weeks of not even thinking about work. I left things in a pretty good place, and I'm not even allowed to work in a different country, so I'm not even bringing any of it. So going away is going to be a huge reset, and I'm very, very excited for it. So that's my right side. What about yours?
Wrong side?
Wrong side. So Saturday wasn't my first Cubs game. Thursday, me and my roommate walked up. Seats like $50, like right behind home plate. They were prime seats. I think we were.
That's a crazy deal. Crazy deal.
It's like a 12-minute walk from our apartment. I think we were probably back like on our couch by the time people got out of the stadium, which was prime. But
hell yeah,
we had looked at it. when Skeens was going to pitch on Thursday. He ended up going Friday. So we went Thursday, Cubs lose. Didn't go Friday. Skeens pitched and looked great.
6 no-hit innings the day before,
Yeah.
day in between you go.
Yeah. And then Saturday we got the walk-off, which was hype, and the bleachers were absolutely bumping. So a little bit of wrong side about missing Skeens, but a lot of right side about all the Cubs games I'll get to hit. And it's so easy to go up there. It's so nice. It's so nice.
Is it also wrong side that you didn't get the chirp Livy as well? I know you really wanted to see her, but
I told my friend she had agreed to do a podcast interview from the bleachers, and they all got really excited. But no, they'll be back this year. There's too many games in baseball, anyways. It's inevitable.
Central in the Central
Dunn
too.
and I,
So.
yeah, we'll cross paths eventually. It'll be the start of something amazing. So I'm not going to call it a wrong side quite yet. It's just a pending right side.
Oh, great spin zone.
Thank you.
Great spin zone. For me, my wrong side, currently, like I said, recording this on Sunday. Tomorrow, have an inventory count. If you're in the accounting world, you know how miserable those are. But I have an inventory count. I thought it was going to be at 8 a.m., about an hour away from my house. Not too bad. But it's got to be at the facility at 5 a.m., hour away. So it's currently 9:09 Pacific Standard Time p.m. I'll get a couple hours, but not ideal way to start my week. Not excited.
No.
I'm supposed to be joining a new team this week too. I had to tell them, I was like, I won't be able to. I might log on a little later on Monday when I come home. So that's gonna be a brutal start to the week. They're really making me earn this vacation, I think.
That's facts. How long are you on the client site for every day?
So for this inventory count?
Yeah, how long are you at the site
So
for?
it varies. It could be like 2 hours, could be 4 hours. It just depends how quick we get through it. Hopefully it's quick. Ideally, even if I have to sit through some traffic, if I can get back home by 9, 10-ish, get back to regular work, could be nice. But yeah.
You then have to work a full day.
So you don't have to work a full day technically, but you got to I'll probably work a good amount because I'm on my new team.
That's a lot.
Gonna be interesting. So that's my wrong side. Gonna have to earn it for sure for this vacation. Friday though, small right sides. Friday they're letting us off at 3 because it's Memorial Day weekend. So
hell yeah,
get a little off early. Right side was that great fantasy week for me. Outside of vacation, I know we're talking about that. That's obviously a right side. Meg's coming into California before the vacation. That's going to be great. But outside of that, something different. Right side is one on my fantasy leagues. I got 2 baseball, which were huge, and 1 league that Joey and I are in together that we'll be updating throughout the season. But this was week 1.
Yes.
WNBA fantasy. A lot of people might think we're crazy, but we're in this for the long run. It's a dynasty league.
10 teams?
It's 10 teams, yes. A lot of success, I think, building in this league. There's people making trades. So people are owning players for just a couple weeks before they have to trade them back. Very similar to the Beano Baseball League, if anybody's familiar with that and they've heard the stories over the years. But I'm 1-0. Joey's 0-1. But
I'm 0-1.
Also, small clutch moment of the week. Shout out Moops for not setting his lineup 3 days and letting me win this week. So shout out Moops. But WNBA.
Bubble Ring. What else is new?
Bubble Ring. Yeah, I live in Bubble Ring. But we're in for the long run. So if anyone wants to know WNBA, we're in it. We're watching all the stats now, watching all the games. Can't wait. Caitlin Clark's heating up. She started struggling. She's heating up, I think. I think she'll get into her groove a little better. And Aaliyah Boston, please score because I have you on my team. So
we are at the forefront of the WNBA movement. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
We'll bounce back from the 0-1 start. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, long season. So that's pretty much it this week. Next week, wrong side goes international. Wrong side goes to Hawaii. Gonna be awesome. Looking forward to you guys hearing that episode. Really hope you enjoy Sam Blum interviews. Check out Matt Brown last week if you haven't. Great interview as well. Like, subscribe, follow us at Wrong Side Takes. Thank you guys for listening. See you next week.
Stay blessed.